email that we got to be careful because we can't say we're having a meeting. But if something happens, we all need to see it together and say, hey, this is what's happening right now. And then that educates them where you can call a person and say, and I would like for sometimes that we all should have our cell phones in each number in our cell phone, even, and I know we're not gonna get along 100% of the time, but isn't that good? I mean, that's how you grow, man. But anyway, so what Ted had brought before, and Ted, if you would, I'll let you talk a little bit about that. But it was 5 members of this board, and then 3 from each town. Is that one person from each town?
One from each town. And this was the economic committee handbook that Ray and I unearthed. And the voting members were the 5 members of the Board of Supervisors, and it's the same group right now. The town representatives were Eric Nash for Blackstone, Joe Morissette from Burkeville as the mayor, and Phil Miskovic Crew as the mayor. And the staff was the county administrator. It was actually Billy Colmer, Blackstone mayor, Glenn Boland, Burkeville Town Council, Brian Thrower, Crew Town Manager, John Hill, John Procyse, and that was the staff.
And then I think let's just have honest conversations before we get started. And some people say, well, why is it 5 board members and only 3 mayors? Well, John Broke had a good comment about it when we were as vice chair meeting with the mayors. We're gonna try to bring the money to the table, and it's gonna take money. And that's the way I feel. I'm not speaking for Helen, I'm speaking for Sherman, I'm not speaking for Lynn. I know that's how John feels. But I feel like if we can figure out a way to make sure we're spreading the mayonnaise, like we talked a little bit, it have money that, if Blackstone has a project, if Crew has a project, or Burkeville has a project, and making sure that we try to treat each other equal. But Phil made a good point, when Phil Miskovic and I was talking, he said, how do you want to do it, Steve? Do you want to have a mission? You got to come up with a strategic plan. Do you want to say, hey, let's really put a lot of effort in Blackstone right now because we all flourish. Or let's try to do something on the west end of the county and I said, well, we're gonna have to figure that out. We got to figure that out together. Because like I said, if one flourishes, all of us flourish. So I think what I like to do now is do a roundtable discussion. How do y'all feel we should set it up?
I like to 5 and 3.
But is it each mayor?
Well, I think the town should dictate that.
Well, I hate to take it away from Mr. Nash, but having the interactions with the 2 mayors and the 5 members of the board,
Right.
I'm gonna have to represent the town.
Okay.
If we had 2 and I wasn't voting, I would have Mr. Nash, but I won't be a part of it,
Right.
especially with our budding relationship.
Right.
Which I'm very fond of.
Right. Yeah. How about you, Mayor? Phil, I'll let you go.
Excuse me. I'm fine with the 5 and 3. I would keep it broad though. I would say the towns could determine who they send, and however the towns determine who they appoint. In
Like an
the
alternate,
mayor appoints committees, so I would assume that would.
Okay, like you might send an alternate besides you.
Right, exactly. Or if in the next mayor may not want to serve on the economic development committee and may have someone. So, for example, back when Sally Wilkerson was mayor, or Lee Simmons, back when Sally was mayor,
Right.
she had too much going on, and so I believe I was the representative.
Right.
I remember correctly.
And before we get to it, so I don't get to Brian, but one thing that I remember, what I don't want is that we start just talking about, hey, let's apply for this grant, I don't want it to be a grant committee. I think that's the wrong.
Yeah, we got the CRC for that.
Right. I think that's the problem. Well, and at the time we didn't have CRC, so
But
that's
you also got him.
right. So that's different. We got zoning on board. So and that would be the county administrator and then zoning would be not on the committee itself, but he'll be staff there. But Brian, what do you think?
When I took mayor 2 years ago, I attended one meeting, and that was the meeting the committee got shut down.
Well, who did that?
So, I don't know, it was a terrible chairman that year, but, we took over, and the way that I was told from the previous mayor, was the mayor was sitting it, but there was an alternate. And Joe had a council member, and you had read it, I believe you said Glenn Bowman was the alternate.
Which were they, I think they were essentially looked at as like staff to the voting body, for lack of better term.
Right. But they were, my understanding of it was, if Joe couldn't make it, Glenn would come, and they took the vote for, and that was kind of the situation. But I don't, like I said, I came to one meeting, and, I had asked Joe before I came, and Joe was like, well, you can go down there, but, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot going on. And when I came down here, it was, yeah, woo, we're gonna do a bunch of stuff. And like a week and a half later, the meeting, or every committee got shut down, and I was like, well, that was a waste of gas going down there for that.
I get you.
So I think whatever we do, I've said to everybody in this room, except maybe Mr. Zodi and Buddy, everything that we do county-wise, whether it's in Crew, Burkeville, Blackstone, or in the county itself, benefits all 4 jurisdictions. So the focus needs to be on the county side as far as tax dollars. We need to be good stewards of the tax dollars. Biggest bang for the buck. And no favoritism. I mean, if anybody's showing favoritism, then you probably don't need to be sitting at the table.
Right.
And treat everybody equally. I mean, if Blackstone grows, it benefits me and Phil. If Crew grows, it benefits.
Right.
I'm saying as far as industry.
Yeah.
I drove through Blackstone the other day, and there's like an apartment complex on every corner. And I'm like, good God. Now I know no one wants to live in Berkeley because there's all these nice new places here.
Right.
So it got me thinking, and that's one of the things that I think is overlooked is we're talking, let's bring industry and industry. But the state facilities have 200 plus jobs open right now. Maybe we don't just need to be solely focused on industry, but maybe we should be looking at industry and housing, at least for the western portion. And I'm not talking about you guys out. You guys are doing outstanding down there. But I think that needs to be a little bit more of a model for the remainder of the county. Because let's say you build a big industrial park, and you've got, pick it, Amazon and eBay, both want to put a center in between Crew and Burkeville.
Right.
Where are all these people going to live? We don't have any of the beginning steps. So companies are going to come here and they're going to go, wow, there's plenty of space to build everything. Where are my workers going to live?
Good point.
And that's not even including the utilities. I mean, we know the utilities is a whole nother argument that I don't even want to get into tonight, but we need to be looking at more than just bringing business in. Where are we going to bring residents in?
It's a very big picture thing. You could even go to the schools. Businesses aren't gonna come here. Workers, if we don't have a school system, that people are gonna move here and bring their kids to.
That's a very valid point, and I surf social media way more than I should. That's the problem Farmville's having right now. You go on to what's happening in Farmville, which is not a county run page, it's public run. And the first thing people say, I want to move to Farmville. And they say, don't move to Farmville, the schools suck. I've seen it on the what's happening in Nottoway page yesterday or today. Somebody asked, I'm interested in moving to Crew. They said, don't do it. Don't move into Nottoway because the schools are terrible. I've been saying that for 2 years since I got elected. I told Billy Colburn that the first day that I talked to him. I said, Billy, you got to stop writing newspapers that bash the county. Get the drama. There's plenty of drama everywhere. Everybody has skeletons. Every town does. Every county does. But these flourishing counties are not putting their drama on the front page of the newspaper. And that's what we're doing here. I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot doing that.
I was fortunate enough, to participate in the beginning steps of the school's strategic planning process with
Mhm.
3A. And it's an ongoing process, so it'll be a while before the report comes out. There's some serious challenges. There's some really dedicated people there who want to make this thing work, but there's some serious challenges. And if these schools aren't brought back up to standard, the chances of bringing in industry or businesses that will really reduce your.
Empirically, the data, we can talk about it, but we can tell you 450 full-time employees. We started looking at picking for the past few years. The State Department.
We got
Less than 20% of the employees live in Ottawa County. less than
Oh,
20%.
man, that hurts.
Well,
But
that-
it's like that Piedmont too, you know what I'm saying? Like in DCBR, they're coming in, the DSA, the lower jobs is more around surrounding, but the psychologists, the doctors, they're not staying here, you know?
Where did y'all's apartments go to? Y'all had like a handful and jumped up to over 300. Is that right?
But they're a little different. These aren't traditional apartments that have been built.
Right.
These are literally, they look like a hotel, they walk like a hotel. Some are called short stays, some because of zoning are called apartments. About 325 units that are permitted or have been constructed or under construction. And it's still not enough. They want a
Right.
350 room built in Blackstone, the service that facility. And that's 10 years ago. And we're at 325 now. Permitted, and we just gave out a building permit for another 40 units over on the end of Tavern Street with the Patriot Square. They should be breaking ground in the next few weeks. And then you got the 10 shop under construction and 40 units that are down in the bottom now. We go with one, two,
I mean, I know y'all have made a big jump, several hundred apartments.
but most of them are one bedroom, so they're not market apartments.
Right.
They're really banking on these fast food.
Bill, what do you think?
Excuse me. Just very briefly, when we talk about economic development is a massive topic and very broad. And we can spend hours, days, weeks just going down rabbit holes, almost like we're doing now, respectfully. I think when we talk about what we want for economic development and economic development committee, we need to first define what we mean by economic development. I know one of the issues that the past EDC had, or potential issues, was the scope was defined so narrowly. I believe it was the will of the EDC that they did not want to talk anything about retail business, anything within that. So, we need to define for ourselves what is economic development, what we do want to talk about, what we don't want to talk about. Mr. Zodi spoke about marketing. And I know that there is some sort of a marketing plan collecting dust on a shelf from many years ago that was never funded. So, is marketing part of economic development? So really, what is it that what is the scope of our mission?
Okay.
All right, so what do you suggest as far as time frame to really lay down what we need to come in here and identify as our strategic plan? I mean, how do you?
Well, the
propose we
strategic
move
plan would
forward?
be, but I think the first step is just tonight. Let's begin the conversation about what we want economic development to mean.
I think, I'm of the, somebody was there, somebody said something.
No,
Okay, I gotta go to the doctor. So, I don't know what we have. Do you understand? And I need to see a map that says Blackstone, this is in green, this is what we own. I mean, I don't know what y'all have. I don't know what I know we got little blocks of land here, and we got, but, we got a little space up there right near, Evans Store. I really don't know. So if I know what I have, then I maybe can come up with what do we want to do. Does that make sense to you? I mean,
Sure, but even I'm gonna have to use the whiteboard.
that's fine.
Go teach college classes, so this is what I do. So what you're talking about is assets. So
Okay, yeah, all right.
So identifying the marketable assets and how can we use it. And that could be an aspect of economic development. Greg mentioned marketing, which can also be an aspect of economic development. Housing falls under the category of, so housing, jobs, retail, all fall under economic development. So it's a massive scope. Where do we want to how are we defining economic development, I guess is the first question.
How would you define it?
Yeah, that's good question.
Well, what is it that you want this group to do? I guess is a better question.
Well, generate revenue for one. And find a way to generate revenue, keep the taxes low.
So,
Offering
so
jobs,
to increase the economic base,
yes.
increase tax base through
Through a stable revenue stream, yeah.
through business and increase property value. Okay, and maybe to create a plan for helping to drive the direction of.
Yes. I think one of the other
It's
things,
a tragedy, but we got them on camera, and we've been after this is the third shooting, so we got them now.
Sorry, Phil, we just had to drive, we had a drive-by shooting,
Okay,
they just slip in Blackstone. And,
oh, same guy
I
hit
said,
your
oh,
truck?
goodness.
It wasn't a drive-by shooting,
Yeah, it's from.
it's a domestic dispute between two fellows over a gal, and, this is the third time they exchanged gunfire, and this time Mr. Gregory shot back, and, Mr. Gregory lives over on Main Street, and they shot his house in his car twice over a girl, and they rolled up on him at Slip In. I don't know if you guys remember, some of you may remember the Hardy Brothers.
Yeah.
The Hardy Brothers were involved in the shooting, and so
Oh, yeah.
Mr. If you remember the Hardys, and we got them on camera this time. It's a
Was anybody
tragedy,
hurt or
but
killed?
we wrapped this thing up.
Was anybody hurt or killed?
Nobody hit.
Innovate, we need to be innovative.
Yeah,
so, okay, so in, well, we'll throw that on here. Also, there's business development.
Right.
While you're up there, you might as well plot education in there, because that's a factor.
Yeah, we're
well,
gonna
it's
put
sort of like school system.
Right,
And also with business development, you have entrepreneurship, which is a word I can't spell.
You aren't going to tech anymore, right?
With all bureaucracy or.
One thing is infrastructure, you have to have infrastructure, and infrastructure just isn't about water, it's about sewer,
Yeah, good point.
and internet.
Three-phase.
Power.
Yes,
yeah, that was a discussion that we were having earlier about identifying the property, but you want to know what those properties look like. Does it have three phase, does it have water, does it have sewer?
So what you say, if you got property and then you get that sewer, that becomes more valuable.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what they've been preaching in Vegas the past 2 years, prepared sites.
Town of Blackstone had a 100-acre industrial park, and we asked Southside Electric to run three-phase power to that park. We already have three-phase power in the park, so there's a sewage pump station. We asked them to provide three-phase because it is outside the town's territory, a pretty touchy issue, and they refused. They indicated they would charge us $655,000 to run three-phase in the park. We have three-phase within 75 feet of Frank Carlo's building. We proposed to them that we would provide the electricity wholesale to them at no markup at the same per kilowatt hour we buy from Dominion Power. And we put a meter and sell it to them, and they would keep the customer. They refused to do that as well. The town has gotten out of the industrial park business, and we sold our entire industrial park after the taxpayers put about $1 million into the sewage pump station,
Wow.
water and sewer. Southside Electric is a deterrent to economic development in Blackstone. They don't like us. I get it, the long history and all that sort of thing. But I would advise you, any piece of property that you have interest in doing something, as I understand it, the upper end doesn't have industrial sites. I would make sure that's on Dominion Power and not on Southside, because they are not there to promote economic development.
They're like that with the planning commission, that the people, we've had situations where people want to put a house up in the agricultural district, and it was cost them $20,000 to get
It's
the power.
absolutely, whereas Mecklenburg Co-op, there's no charge for residents.
Right.
Chairman Bowles,
It's gonna take,
I received,
it's gonna take
I'm
some
sorry, Shirley.
first-class funerals
First class, no have to be. We don't have an industrial
I
park,
was
but we're
thinking
blessed we got
the
picked
Don't
up.
put that in the, don't put that in the minutes.
I received a very nice
As I understand,
congratulatory
population is
letter
over
from their CEO. I'll take a whack at
That's
it.
a,
All right, okay.
I mean, you
So-
know, maybe you and I can meet with them.
How does anything
That's
occur?
nice, I'm glad you got it.
So what I was saying, here about right, about 47, close to 50% of Nottoway County's population is over 65 years old. So you've got this big demographic that's going away from here. So how are you gonna drive in? What about any of this is gonna, you gotta have some, be driving in some youth to get any of this to.
Yeah, we heard that from the fire department today too.
I can tell you, I've got three adult sons that are 27, 26, and 25. Ain't none of them live in Nottoway County. Ain't none of them ever moving back to Nottoway County. One lives in Richmond, one's in Greensboro, South Carolina, and one's in Farmville, or excuse me, Greensboro, North Carolina. One's in Farmville. They won't come back to Nottoway. Why? Lynn touched on it earlier. The schools are terrible. My son, who has 2 daughters, he ain't putting his kids in school here. He's gonna put his kids up there in Fuqua. When they hit school age, they're only 3 now, but that was his main goal. I'm not coming back to Nottoway because there's nothing for my kids.
My
Period.
daughter's in Prince Edward.
I mean, so schools are a major driver, in my opinion. You're not gonna pull these big businesses in. You're not gonna pull people to buy brand new homes and
And,
place without good schools.
and adding to that, you know, you said that your sons aren't going to move here. That's, you know, part of that is what's called brain drain. You have people who go off to college who, you know, get an education and don't move back because they want to move somewhere else where they can get a higher salary and because there's no jobs for them here. Yeah, but we're I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, how do we market, cause we got some good jobs available. Prison, Piedmont, jail, you guys up there with the state, marketing those jobs, because a lot of those jobs start at over the household median here in Nottoway County.
Don't discount all those federal jobs sitting down there at that Fast C too.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, it's like,
Well, really on the upper end of the county, going back to using that term, and I like it is, Philip just brought up, there, Blackstone's not, but on the upper end of the county, we're in a food desert.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Every store is
It's a
15
big
miles.
problem.
That's a big problem. I mean, my way I live, I either go to Blackstone or go to Farmville, and I rather go to Blackstone because my money. You see what I'm saying? You know, it's like going to another county.
So Phil, is that a retail issue, a separate issue like you've got it, or is it an infrastructure issue?
So it's a
See how it all.
You're right.
relates?
It's all interrelated. I'd also say that it also impacts other retail. So grocery stores are anchor businesses. People go and, well, it's not only an anchor business, it also helps create social capital and culture because people go to grocery stores not only to shop but to also gossip and hear the latest news. So it creates community, but it also serves as an anchor business. So you have a grocery store and then you have all these other businesses that are around it. So people go to the grocery store and shop elsewhere. Part of the issue is in the western side is the result of now I'm getting to resource dependence theory and path dependence theory and all that. But Walmart opened up on the eastern side of the county, and when that happened, it started to draw all the customers from the western side and just killed retail business on the western side. So it's all of those. It's also about smart planning. So in future decision making, is putting a Walmart on one side of the county versus in the center of the county the best option.
You mentioned a few minutes ago how we want to avoid going down rabbit holes, and that's what we're doing again, but you
Right,
can't because
absolutely.
if
Oh, yeah, we
nothing
think one more
exists,
quarterback.
nothing exists in a silo though. You say, we wanna
Right.
do this, but we don't have schools, we wanna do this, but we don't have youthful population, you know, it's hard to
Right.
not go down all these rabbit holes.
Exactly, and this is almost starting to look like when we bring in education, housing, infrastructure, zoning, it's all starting to look like a comprehensive plan rather than an economic development,
Right.
committee.
Well,
So,
to Lynn's point too, it's like when we sit here talking about like jobs, like people taking those good jobs. If the majority of the people of this age, they're already in career jobs. You know, so once again, it's like, people believe that like, all right, if you build a bunch of restaurants, how are they gonna go eat? Well, they work, they go shop and eat.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's, but it's based on, the age gap that we're missing. You know, that's what's missing here. And,
Well, in Blackstone, y'all tell me if I'm wrong, Joe, you kind of reached your limit on restaurants. Because it looked like someone that it was really,
I think
it
Mark
was
has
like,
kind of determined, dictated, this is what's gonna work and what's not gonna work.
right, right.
Yeah.
I mean, I maybe made a limit, maybe it was a type of, you know, it looked like the guy, he's a small business guy, but shoot, barbecue place closed, you know, I was like, but at that time it was like 13 or 14 restaurants in
I
Blackstone.
don't have this, so
Right,
I think we found equilibrium.
right.
We wanna change that equilibrium because we wanna start busing more of the students into town. But what we're finding, a lot of those students grocery shop at Food Line and come back and grill out and cook in their rooms and do all those kind of things. So
Yeah,
our meals tax is way up, and I panicked just yesterday when I saw that McDonald's had closed for a month. That's a big taxpayer around meals tax, and we're bringing about $740,000 a year in meals tax.
So let's look at Blackstone. Out of the three towns, Blackstone is probably one of the closest to thriving.
Yes.
And because of what, Bassy? What would you be doing without Bassy?
I don't even know if Fancy's there.
Yeah,
I don't, for my business, I don't.
right.
The majority of the people that work there are transient, and they work construction jobs, and they don't have the credit to buy anything. That's my observation. I mean, Philip, you would have a
That's
broader,
the going thing right now is the housing. That's what's driving things. Now, we're having an appreciable number of single family houses being built in town. We probably got 600-800 under construction right now. Rentals. Not families necessarily moving into Blackstone, but more rental. The house to rent in Blackstone is
well,
$1,200.
this is what I was gonna say, well, maybe that's a good point to start. Okay, y'all are still short on rental units. Should we be looking going towards Crew and Burkeville for construction of rental units? It's a 10-minute drive.
well, if you get 80% of the people employed out there that'll drive 50 minutes to get out of Nottoway, then I would say, you know, but how much is the market responsible for this? You know, all we can do is encourage, and is there any possibility of tax abatements or something to get somebody to do something like that?
All right, grocery store, like, number one, ain't no corporate grocery store coming to us in that can't, no time soon. Best suggestion, I believe you find a piece of land, go build a shell structure on it, and hope we can entice a private individual to open a grocery store.
But you got, that goes back, what do we have again? I say this, I mean, how many people are there? I mean, I heard Philip, you know, throwing out numbers, but how many people work at Piedmont? How many people work at VCBR? How many people, can we get numbers like they live outside the county? Can the HR of these places get that information for us? I don't,
It's in the census.
is it in the sense? Okay.
Yes, sir. Out, community and community.
Okay, so what I'm getting at is, I think I gotta look at numbers and maps and see, well, I know it's hard to say, well, what do you, and I see it, Phil's making this point. How do we find economic development? I'm not even sure what we have. I mean, I think, I don't know, I think we have this, you know, for some reason, but here's what I do know. If we will sit here on our hunches and think they will come to us, bullshit. You got it happening.
And it's not gonna be free.
No, it ain't gonna be free, that's right, that's
That's the
right.
biggest
If we
thing,
think
it's
we gonna
not
come
gonna
in,
be
and
free.
somebody just gonna come in and just say, hey, man, I'm gonna fix you guys up, that ain't happening.
So part of the tail, what I heard when I first got here, or the tail end of your guys' budget meeting, there was some talk about tourism. In my mind, I moved to this county in December of 2009. It's terrible, the amount of like push for tourism. There's people, my dad drove down here 4 summers in a row, my brother, all the way from Chicago. It's a long ride. It's 13 and a half hours. Drove down here to tour stuff around here, Prince Edward, Lunenburg. I mean, there's a ton of history. Civil War, Revolutionary War.
Right.
We can't keep saying, and it annoys me when people are like, well, you know, the previous didn't do it. Right. But we're in the seats now.
Right.
We're sitting here and we're saying people. All of these pretty little words up here on the board, what does it come down to? People. The money comes from people. The businesses come with people. The houses come with people. We need to start marketing what we have in place right now to get people to come here, like myself, and say, hey, I'm tired of the big city. I'm moving to the country. I don't like drive-by shootings, and apparently those guys are experiencing the problem down there. Y'all are lucky if you only had 3 in the past couple of years. I mean, I grew up in the city. There's shootings 3-4 times a night. People don't want to live in that crap hole. They want to move to a nice, safe place. But if we're not marketing, hey, we're a nice, safe place, and get those people out of cities, and I'm not talking Chicago, I'm talking Richmond. You know, my son moved out of Fayetteville to Greensboro. Why? Because Fayetteville is, the older people will laugh, it's called Fayette now.
That's right, Vietnam.
Drugs and low income housing. Now that's the problem. I've got a military background. I didn't grow up in Nottoway County, so I can be a little bit more abrasive about it. We're talking bringing rentals in.
Right.
Well, I'm a longtime rental payer. My landlord lives in Williamsburg. I've been living in my house almost 7 years. But I'm unlike other people. I maintain my house. I try to keep the grass cut. I try to keep the neighborhood clean. A lot of renters have no investment in that neighborhood. Other than you guys are dealing with a different thing, Philip, but you guys are dealing with people are here for jobs. They get their training and they're gone. But the average renter, you don't want to be drawing a ton of renters in that don't give a rat's rip about the area they live in. That's me personally. I'll be the one that says it. I think that's a lot of our loose dog problem in this county and aggressive dogs is because people don't give a shit. They're not from here. They tear up the house and they're gone. Their dogs attack somebody, they get a lawsuit and they're gone. Catch me if you can.
I think you both got a good point.
You-
I think we get those maps, you're talking about it, everybody's land, color code, who, you know, this call, and start working on the market and then.
But see, here's another problem. You can work on marketing, tourism, all you want to. As long as the state don't bring that damn trail all the way to Burkeville, you got a problem. That's just, they go to a dead end. They can't even get to the last mile.
Steve, let me ask you this. If the trail comes into Burkeville, yeah, it's gonna help me. It's gonna help him. It's gonna maybe help Blackstone. Why? Because people are gonna come. I don't have anywhere for people to stay other than the one motel. He's got one motel. Some of them people are gonna wanna go to that fancy bed and breakfast because these people that ride these trails, they go all over the damn country riding trails. They're gonna stay in the nice bed and breakfast that Blackstone's got, and that Taj Mahal hotel they just reconverted over there. That's where they're gonna stay, the people with the money. That's who we want coming in here.
Well.
Look at,
Well, hold on, Brian, let me just say this to you, because I've talked to my brother about it. I mean, we got a lot of land right there on the trail. I said, it ain't all them people, it's some horse people. You see what I'm saying? You can build a horse camp, and then people will camp out and bring the horse and feed it and ride that whole trail. I'm telling you.
not everybody's rich like you and can
But no,
build
what
a
I'm getting
stable
at
for dogs.
is, maybe we don't need to think hotel, think about a horse. Maybe it's a piece of land right there at the trail that we could buy and do something with it. I can't, I'm just saying.
That Sandy River Adventure Park up there.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's nice.
That adventure?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a
that's
good one.
very nice.
Nice.
Mhm.
But what I'm getting at is, going to tourism, we're going in the rabbit hole. But there's so many other things that you can.
Well, you have to make your county inviting to come into.
Right.
You have to make it so people say, oh, wow, I want to go to Nottoway. But with the bad publicity and everything that we've had in the past, that doesn't make it inviting. With the school system, same thing. If you get negative publicity, it pulls your numbers down. It pulls people, they don't want to come here.
All right.
To follow up the trail thing, Steve, you've got 5 supervisors sitting here. You got a county administrator. You got 3 mayors. You got a town manager. why don't we all send a letter and all of us sign this letter saying, hey, the state, y'all promised us this trail when you started it 20 years ago, 15 years ago.
Right.
And then Pamplin had more pull. So guess what? Pamplin got finished. Pamplin's been done for well over a year. That bullshit excuse of, we're still finishing Pamplin. No, you're not. It's done.
I mean, someone will automatically open a bike business right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They'll open a hot dog stand, a
But
bike
But if
business.
y'all look at the seats.
You get the horse rental thing. I mean, every military base I've ever been to has a golf course and horse stables. I mean, I'm just telling you that I've got a view outside of this little county. Every military base has a golf course. Not saying we need to build a golf course. We've got 2 of them at least that I know of in the county. We don't have any horse stables.
All right, well, other than the map, what do you?
I think that's on down the road. Let's let Phil bring us back. So looks like you're the chairman of this meeting.
I'm sorry. So it sounds like there's a lot of different directions we want to go in, and it comes back to planning.
Okay.
And the first step in planning is, articulating the problem, which is, something that we've been doing, but really doing it in we can do that through a SWOT analysis. Everyone familiar with the SWOT analysis? And also, using that to help identify our assets. And then from there, creating objectives, goals, and strategies. Those strategies are specific. How do we get to the goals, and then how do we reach the objectives, and then funding those. I guess the question is, how do we want to go about that? Because we can do that ourselves. We can have a facilitator help to bring the conversation around
To do the SWOT analysis.
to help create a plan if we want to go that direction.
Do we already have a plan, comprehensive plan?
Well, a comprehensive plan is different. The comprehensive plan gives you the
20 years.
overall, 20 years, where do we want to be, and how do all the broad parts fit together. A strategic plan gives you what are the objectives and goals and strategies, and how are we going to do those, and this is how we're going to fund it, and gets you to.
Yeah, if I can interrupt, Mayor.
Please.
Okay, and that's one of the, you have your SWOTs and everything, but for immediate action, you typically can create an action plan that's kind of time sensitive, where everybody knows their roles and goals, and we're all working toward the same goal at the end. And action plans are pretty effective. They're much shorter. They're not like they aren't meant to be bookshelf plans. I guess most plans aren't intended to be bookshelf plans, but action plans, we identify who's responsible for what. Greg will look and do zoning and GIS and stuff like that. And one thing we need to consider with doing the land inventory throughout the county is we need to do the zoning to make sure, because we don't want to set ourselves up for rezonings and stuff, because that would include spot zonings, which could lead to arbitrary capricious judgment before a court and everything.
But what I'm talking about with the comp plan, shouldn't our strategic plan parallel with our comp plan?
It pretty much should, kind of.
And incorporate the town's perspective plans as
Right.
well.
Yeah, well, and that's a couple of things I was thinking through. First, the comp plan is the county comp plan. It's the county comp plan, but the jurisdiction doesn't cover the towns of the comprehensive plan. So we're really talking about a different type of a plan, a strategic economic plan, which I'm willing to bet you somewhere in the comprehensive plan, there's some language about economic development and the county shall explore or.
It is.
Yeah, that's where this process.
I don't think anything on there is mystery. I think you're right. It's an annex that probably already knew kind of.
Well, we already have our broad goals and objectives and strategies. It's just incorporating you all, and then, what are the first steps? And that's y'all's discussion.
Now, Phil, to your point
Phil,
about.
another thing we need to do is establish our relationship with the state, because they have an economic development committee.
Sure. So partnerships, relationships,
I think
definitely.
that's what Brian was trying to
Tourism
say.
and everything else. And they're the ones who lots of times will send industries to different places.
Well, that was
Come
something
from
we.
They go.
Well, that was something I was thinking about when the mayor was talking about, Southside Co-op. Dominion has a whole division dedicated, Dominion Electric. Dominion Power, they have a whole division dedicated to economic development.
Yeah, they're typically huge supporters. I mean, because it's gonna bring them a tremendous amount of business.
They're looking at money just like we are.
Yeah.
If we can put the infrastructure, we make money.
They see it as a new customer.
Yeah.
They really help.
Phil, the part about facilitating, and I'll just throw this out there. Weldon Cooper does facilitations, Vaco could do facilitations, VML could do facilitations. Probably something even at Virginia Tech could do, you know, of course, scraping the bottom of the barrel, but. No, I mean, an academic, Lord, I mean, you know, we're not that far away from Auburn. I mean, you know, an academic facility could come in and do something like that.
Would it cost us if VACO was our facilitator, since we're already a member of VACO?
I would hope not. We might have to buy them lunch or something, but.
Well,
I think
Yes.
they all have value. I think statistically, when it's all done, this thing's going to shop and don't normally help you that much. So this was interesting. I just Googled small town success stories. Oh my gosh, a ton of stuff pops up. The president of Richmond Federal Reserve, he goes on, while every community is different, we've identified some common themes and the challenges they face and what makes them successful. You know, we could all kind of do some research on other small town success stories and what, small
Here's some things
towns.
that may or may not make some sense. We didn't start, but as a reaction of what's going on in Blackstone, one of our most successful businesses is Brew House, right?
Yeah.
Another brew house. Now we've got 2 new breweries coming. How do we capitalize, you know, drink so much beer, but are there other things in Nottoway County that you can tie into that? Is there a trail? We got a bus system. I think facilitating is great and all that sort of thing. You need some energy. You need to get out there and get at the table and get these state folks to start sending you leads.
Sure,
So you're thinking something online like the Kentucky Bourbon.
You know,
Well, you know, go ahead.
Like there's one site, Small Towns, Big Ideas. It's a bunch of case studies in small town community economic development. I mean, there's tons of resources out here. If found things that inspire something, we could do that, you know, and kind of mimic.
I think we just did it.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely, I'm sorry.
No, I was just, and let's go back to the money. I mean, he's got it up at funding.
Yeah.
So, you know, they were talking about the Gators ball field today, okay? Crew got this beautiful stadium. They got beautiful ball fields. Berkeley's got a nice ball field. We have been depending for all my life for Dixie Youth Rec to bring in ball games. We need somebody we may need to hire to be a rec person to get, because then they will eat here.
Yeah.
And they will spend money here and get gas here. And then, you know, so some of these things, you know, I know, and that's gonna be, I mean, that's one of our strengths, I think, today, that we haven't grabbed hold to it yet. Dixie Youth is not gonna do that for us. They're not gonna do that.
to sign them up and then that's.
Right, I mean, y'all got a ball field, is anybody even use it, the Galoob field, is it?
The school still owns it, don't?
The school and,
Okay.
school and stuff.
But I mean, so many assets, man. You know what I'm saying? Right?
One of the unique challenges with Blackstone is, you know, as they rightly should have, and if I'm off tilt here, please tell me. But they've done this with the rec association. There's this huge block off for the rec association. I feel like the rec association ought to come back to y'all and say, listen, you've been great to us. Here's all we need. Y'all shop this for ball tournament.
Here's what we are doing, so you know. Italian Hospitality is a umbrella group that actually owns you. They also own the Hilton and Farmville, and they have 17 hotels in Central Virginia. And their marketing director gave her a tour of the ball field, and we're gonna let her market. Because they're gonna be the direct recipients of the people using these rooms, and they're doing
Smart.
it. If we rely on the volunteers,
They gonna have.
you're gonna get a volunteer effort.
That's
You know,
right, that's right,
They
that's right.
hustle for the kids and stuff, but are they really gonna hustle for that? We're using Italian Hospitality, and Miss Hardy, I think is her last name, and she's our marketing director, and she's gonna be trying to sell you bowling in turn.
I mean, I'm telling you, when Dixie does have a tournament up there, you don't go in line at the Big T. You ain't no use. Don't even go to stop at the gas station. Get through. I mean, I've seen it, man. Hard is backed up.
That's right.
Anyway, because that's what they.
McDonald's
Steve, we need to
closed, 2 weeks.
Who?
McDonald's is closed for 2 weeks.
That's what he just said.
Three. They're killing my meals tax.
Well,
But Steve,
General
we organize these tournaments. Let's use all 3 teams.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. That's what I like to
Throw
see
it
us
all
do. as a
over
group.
Canada.
Right.
They do it in Chesterfield
Yeah.
all the time. You got Iron Bridge, it's like 3 different groups, and as we start eliminating teams, they go down to one final team.
RBA South,
Yes.
RBA North,
You know,
you could,
Well, them-
Phil, what you could do, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff, I'll just say it, my pizza's on. I'm good, but I think a lot of the things that we're talking about, like education, trails, hiking paths or whatever, that's a quality of life issue. Education is a quality of life issue. I just heard everybody complaining about it. So I think we just need to categorize those issues, fold them in, some of them into quality of life, and then we have infrastructure, we have land use, and we have to look at what's resilient in terms of land use, as opposed to vulnerability and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of things to weigh, but personally, I think economic development is how we define it.
Right.
Right. You know, we're all trying, it comes down to making bank, but each locality is going to be different in how they make that approach.
Well, I just Googled define economic development, and there are 20 different definitions.
So here's what I think we need to be thinking. Let's make goals that we know we can reach.
Attainable.
Right. Let's don't make any goals that say, oh, we're gonna bring in, I don't know, Amazon. Right. No, come on.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Right. Let's take what we got.
We got our strengths, market our strengths,
Right.
formal plan beyond
Smart
that.
goals. That's it.
Steve, you've lost my vote, man. You picking on me and my Amazon. You're done. You ain't getting a vote this year from me. I'm gonna talk to my mom and my wife to get rid of their votes too.
But look, if you do find a smart goal, if you start making goals, then it is contagious.
It is.
You know what I'm saying?
One of
Right.
these case studies, it was a real success story, one of the poorest towns in the, whatever, state, yes, I think it was Montana. But, whoever spearheaded this said it wasn't about getting bigger, it was about getting better. And so they created this major music festival that once a year drove in all this revenue that they used to revitalize the downtown area. And the people still wanted to live in a small community, so not a lot of people were moving in, but it was a destination thing for all these unique shops and stuff that they had.
Right. That's pretty neat.
We've got the ability to do
Yeah, we got to
something.
do it.
I think one thing very quickly is, I was astonished at the last tobacco commission meeting. And I was astonished terribly. They gave us $581,000 for the armory. We've been talking about that day forever, right? You know, VMAC got $90,000. You know, 35 jobs and all these other things. They did give us an IRF loan to do the water, sewer, and electric. We gotta be at the table at every single thing. Cumberland County got $218,000 to build a pier to launch kayaks in a damn thing I've ever seen.
Right.
To her point, Mom, I told you last night, we got 2 airports. What I say do, concert series, swap the airports, Crew and Blackstone. Concert series.
But see, and this is why we joined CRC, because you mayors, they can't sit down and write these grants and stuff. You know, we need to make sure, you know, but going to your point, that's going back to the same thing I'm saying. We need to know what's out there,
We gotta
what's
identify
available.
where our resources are.
Right, to put a pier
They're out
out
there. There's more money in the system today
Yes, it is.
than I've ever seen in 30 years of government.
Let me ask you a quick question. Somebody brought up concerts. Who made all the money off of ZZ Top and Leonard Skinner and all them national acts that
There
go
wasn't
into
money
her?
made.
No,
There was no money made. It was very limited money was made. This concerts cost a lot of money. It was what was it?
Was Crew in partnership?
It wasn't the town of Crew. No, it was a nonprofit
yeah.
that was associated with the wasn't forget the name of the group.
I guess my thing is, and I should have better asked the question. The park is owned by Southside Electric. Did they get a cut of it?
They probably rented it out.
I'm sure that it got leased out.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They didn't, out of the kindness in their heart, say, let's bring 10,000 people into our field. If the county has a piece of land, you guys had mentioned, maybe it was in this meeting, but I feel like I'm in a daydream, and it was last meeting. The fair. Greg had mentioned fairs.
Mhm.
That was at the budget meeting, wasn't it, when you were sitting down here?
Tonight too.
But I mean,
Yeah,
when you were here for the
Yes,
budget.
Yes.
Yeah,
We
yes.
don't have a county fair in this county.
Yeah, Crew Town meeting, it was actually discussed in a Crew Town
If-
meeting about fairs, concerts.
Yeah, I mean, if the county owned a piece of land, do you put a stage on?
Yeah, you rent them.
You see what I'm saying,
Like
John?
a tractor trailer comes in, it looks like a transformer, it will drop down, roll out, speakers, lights and everything, plug it up.
But if the county owns land, why are we just letting the land sit there? The county ain't paying nothing on taxes.
I agree.
You're not charging yourself for your land. The town don't charge itself for its land.
Already picked the first band, innovation.
I mean, whoever it
I
is.
got to know innovation.
But if you have
Yeah,
10 acres or 15 acres or 20 acres and it's just sitting there until we come up with something, until somebody from the state says, hey, Sherman, we've got somebody who's interested. You guys got that land. We've got a suitor for that land. And then the county goes and says, okay, we're going to sell this piece of land off. We're going to sell it to this person that Sherman got a call about. You follow what I'm saying? In the meantime, we're wasting it. It's just sitting there.
But you gotta have a staff member running that. Well, you don't think so?
No, I'm just running.
I mean,
I'm trying to break back.
Well, people.
once
Once
you
you
start
We're not,
organizing
man.
things, you'll
You're
need
good.
somebody to kind of keep it organized.
That's right.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
But you don't need a staffer until you get it set up.
Yeah, I go back with.
You don't need a staffer to say, that's the piece of land right there.
I understand that, so like I just said, I can tell you, if you're expecting on volunteers, you'll get a volunteer effort. Yeah, I'm telling you, you gotta put somebody dedicated, because you don't wanna do it just one time, you wanna do it 2 times, 3 times.
Yeah,
So you gotta keep something moving.
Bring the event organized.
That kind of attitude, though, look at where I'm sitting. I don't get paid nothing. And I'm running the town.
Right.
Mhm.
Ben's not making a whole lot, Phil's not making a whole lot, but I'm a volunteer. So at some point I get irritated hearing, well, you're gonna get a volunteer effort. Well, as my citizens, you're gonna volunteer effort to get out of me.
I
You
didn't
find the right volunteer, you get a whole lot more than you're thinking you get.
Yeah, well, and I didn't mean it with talking about.
And I'm not, don't take offense on it, Steve, I'm just saying.
Right.
There are people in this community that would give you their blood, sweat, and tears to see this community succeed.
Mhm.
So you can't discount it because, well, we don't have a staff position. Bullshit.
All right, well, what about
Give
the-
them
what
what
about
you
the Chamber
need
of
and move
Commerce?
forward.
We had a conversation one time, it's like, should Nottoway form a Nottoway Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah.
And if the town
That's
decides they
what I'm
want to
about
keep
to
their own,
every time.
they can still keep their own, but they can be members of this. Reason being is a group effort like that, you have all the chambers come together on each event. There's someone who can run a point for you, there's someone who can run the events for you, or you get an event organized. Just knock it out.
I think I go back, what
Okay,
do
so let
we?
me ask you a question. A lot of the Blackstone Chamber of Commerce folks, how many of those are actually businesses operating inside Fort Pickett?
In the chamber? Ben, you're a chamber guy.
Well, before I answer that question, I don't want to insult you, but I want to expand on what you're saying about volunteers. You're a rare bird, sir. and
Oh, I
appreciate
agree.
what you do. But my wife chairs DPI, they can't get anybody to serve. They have to break their bylaws and let people stay on. The Chamber of Commerce is, they don't have the most qualified people on their boards. So I'm in agreement, but you're not a volunteer. You're a staff, you know? We're talking about the rank and file people that are burnt out, that have done this for years and years, and the new kids come up, they don't wanna do this. They, not too many years ago, I was chairman of the tournament committee at the golf course. I'm calling members, they ask to work a booth, work a booth 2 hours. Well, I pay dues. Well, I've been paying dues 30 years, and I'm running the whole thing, So that's kind of what he's saying.
All I was
Yeah,
saying
and that's what I
was getting started. Let's not hold us because we don't have a paid staff or we don't have a person. There's people in this community that could help get it off the ground. And once it goes, once you have that 1 or 2 events, you say, well, hey, we made 20 grand off this. we could put that towards someone's salary.
Man,
That's all I'm saying.
If I could weigh in up on this, SMART goals, I'm a salesman. I've been selling stuff for 40 years. And if I set a sales goal too high, then I give up. Okay? So I'd like you to add patience to this. You know, that we won't necessarily, because we gotta be honest, if we're gonna drive the county forward, it's not gonna be us. It's gonna get the limelight. We're not gonna get the credit. It's gonna be somebody 12 years from now that took the foundation. And I think, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
We're trying to build a foundation, because this doesn't happen overnight. Lynn's right. You got a 50-year problem with the school board. Okay?
Right, well, and
You know,
also on
we
that
ain't gonna fix
strategic plan, I think you're looking short-term, long-term, but be realistic and patient.
Right. You know, I had a former mayor told me, that's gonna take several elections to fix. You know, this is not a quick fix. Some of the things we could do in an action plan, we could start being better tomorrow, but some of them will take years. So that's just my thoughts. I just don't want us to get to the point that we get bogged
We think we're
down.
gonna leave out here tonight and about
Right.
next
You're
year,
not
this
gonna
thing will
change
be right
the
or wrong,
county,
I get it.
But I will tell you this, as a citizen, I'm about peeing my pants to hear that we're willing to get together and do this. You know, because both of my kids, I'm still on the floor here, but both of my kids, you know, there's no job for them when they graduate. And, you know, so from that to changing these young people's perspectives, like your sons, I can't wait to get out of here. You know, my daughter's upset. She's only been gone 6 months, but she's like, you know, Dad, I want to come back and raise a family in Nottoway, but if I don't get a job at the airport with Textron, where's the aerospace engineer going to get a job? You know, so I tell my kid to be a civil engineer because she hates it? No, you got to, you know, so. And how many, you know, my daughter's committed to get a master's in psychology. We've got 2 or 3 therapists around here, but, you know, without people and without, you know, we're never going to grow.
Let me ask you this, all right, and I mean, I know there's lots of thoughts, all right? Something that you can absolutely take action on, whether it's a concert series or a county fair. I would volunteer and hope anybody else would in here. Let's take it on.
I want a paycheck.
Okay.
Steve said that only paid people work hard.
Do we have?
I volunteer field work with Dalton Booth.
No, I mean, guys, I'm being dead serious. If you wanna put a concert series together, you're probably gonna get 2 events in before it gets too cold. You wanna put a county fair together, you've gotta be working on it right now.
But look, let me go back to my point, and I think we're completely out of whack here. But let's be honest. What happened to the chicken festival? That's been going on for years. I know what happened to it. Won't no damn volunteers. Am I right or wrong?
So
I can say that thing went on for time.
well, it's a little bit more complicated, but so what is it that
Phil,
volunteers?
won't nobody selling the tickets. I didn't talk to Joe Marzette.
Right,
All
so-
the volunteers.
Exactly. So it's volunteers. So what is it that volunteers provide? It's administrative capacity. So if there are individuals who can sell the tickets, who can put the things together, that's where it all falls apart. And you get that administrative capacity through volunteers or through paid staff or through.
That's the only point I'm trying to
But
make.
yeah,
I'm not saying
absolutely.
that, but I'm just saying, I like the patience thing. Guys, we got it, ladies, we gotta get it moving, but we really gotta have somebody that's dedicated. I mean, let's say what it is. We're dealing with, I got a job, okay, and then I'm dealing with county issues and other issues. No, most likely I'm not gonna go around and sell tickets. I'm being honest with you.
Right.
I ain't got time. I'm not leaving my family and lose my life home balance to go and sell tickets. I'm sorry. But I got vision. I know we got money and we ought to be able to hire somebody, and that's what I'm trying to figure out.
There you go. That's,
Right.
that's another way to get that in.
I mean, that's all I'm saying, you know.
Absolutely. So in terms of next steps, there is some data out there. I think when CRC came in to do the comprehensive plan and they had all those community meetings, didn't they do some sort of SWOT analysis? Brought everyone together.
That was before I got here.
They did do.
Todd-
They did
Todd
do. They did
Fortune
some.
would know.
I might have that.
Okay.
We did one at the officer club.
So we can. So I think the next meeting it would be, you know, doing the SWOT analysis and identifying the assets and, you know, taking this in being patient, going through some incremental steps. Next meeting would probably be SWOT analysis, identifying the assets. SWOT analysis, for those who aren't familiar, is you identify the strengths, weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats for economic development in the county.
But I will say, the reason why we failed so far, and I've been here 16 years.
Right, and that's exactly why that marketing plan set
Gotta
up.
put it in
Shelton,
there.
and it's,
You know, we say it talk for 20 years every Thursday, and it ain't gonna make a difference. You gotta put some money in.
Gotta put money.
But you also need to know what you're funding.
Right, what you funded, that's right.
Wasn't some of the former EDC, if you will, wasn't some of the problem of let them come to us, we're not gonna reach out.
That's right.
We took that out.
And that was part of,
You're
I
right, Brian.
think, to tail end, you know, to tie into you, Steve,
Right.
that was a funding thing.
Yeah.
The county, the previous regime did not want to put any damn money into reaching out.
Right.
Didn't want to get prepared sites, didn't want to try to draw any people in here, and just hoped Pickett would save the day.
We became a CRC, not economic development. That's what we did. I mean, we started applying for grants. That's what, and then, you know, tobacco money. I mean,
Apply.
Wasn't
Yeah,
there?
right, that's right, that's what we
And,
did.
and prior to my time, there was a marketing, the county was paying for marketing, but the marketing partner was not really marketing. Is that correct? You know what I mean? So how much money did the county waste being a part of an association that didn't do jack crap for the county?
Right.
And that's where we need to sit in here. Phil's dead on. We need to identify the data. What do we know? We know the data, and the data doesn't lie. So identify that first. That'd be the next thing before we start talking about we're going to throw money out the window.
Right.
I've got a council that likes to just throw money out the window. Well, if we put money at this, it'll come. No, it won't.
No.
Fixing something that you're not completely fixing is not going to fix it.
I get you.
You know what I mean?
But we gotta make sure that we all committed to the funding before we get started. Because you're
Oh,
wasting your
I see.
time.
That's what you're saying.
Right, right.
How can you commit to funding? when
You
You
don't know
don't
what
even know
you-
how much you're talking about, we don't even know what our budgets are gonna look like. It's kind of hard to just let.
I know.
commit to the funding.
Like, yeah, what are you gonna say? But here's the
That's when
thing,
you gotta
but,
identify other resources, are there investment groups, are there other, the grants or?
well, the whole purpose of the LRA was supposed to, well, you know, the land was given back to the county, and we should be taking that money to use for economic development and generate more money. Because it was such a,
Keep in mind, you couldn't even use that money until after 12.
yeah, but the 12 years is done,
Yes.
right, so 12 years is
up.
done.
But it hasn't been that long.
Right, and so now we heard tonight that there's people like that not paying enough for rent, there's buildings that need to be worked on. So we gotta figure out how we can stop the bleeding for that. So, but my goal was to say, hey, okay, so if we got so much money coming in out there, let's take 50% of that, or whatever, I'm just throwing numbers, 25% of it, and put it to the economic development budget each month. And then all of a sudden, Brian says, did you notice the land for sale right there on 364, how much they asking for? Well, we need some, see that, but see, who's gonna be that dedicated person to help do that? You see what I'm saying? I mean, I don't think, Zodi would go like that for that, right? Okay, but what I'm getting at, all right, what about if we do have a person who builds, who's a rec coordinator, or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so you have that person. Well, Brian needs a scoreboard. You understand what I'm saying? All that stuff goes to that building, you know. Maybe Galuba needs a scoreboard after Blacks. You see what I'm saying? That's my whole point, is trying to figure out, can we take some of that money and keep investing in and building an account? In other words, don't say, here's $100,000. Nah, it ain't gonna work. You gotta have money still keep flowing in monthly, you know.
So one thing I think we need to make sure we don't lose is, I know we've got Greg who's here that could do a lot of this, but we got to give him clear defined
Goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Idea, you know what I mean? Throwing ideas at him is great.
Right.
But then he goes back to his office and he's like, I got, he
Yeah,
takes a
what is
picture
he
of his
doing?
board.
Right.
Where do I start? You know what I mean? And then he ends up with, he's over here and he's over here and he's over here.
Right.
You know, we hired Buddy. Well, I said the county hired Buddy. But if you don't tell Buddy, I want you to work with the 3 fire departments the police, you know, 3 police departments, the sheriff's office, and the rescue squad. He comes in and he's gonna go to his former chief and, rescue squad background,
Right.
and he's gonna start working with them and doing what he knows. Well, then 6 months later, you don't come in and say, well, buddy, we wanted you working on the emergency operations plan.
Yeah.
Well, when you brought me in, you told me to have at it, work it. Well, I'm going with what I know.
Right.
I get you.
So we gotta give them clear, defined
You
results.
have to have a priority list as to what
Exactly.
you wanna do, right?
All right. Yeah, I was gonna say, because we're rabbit holing again.
Yes.
So,
No offense.
and I'm just asking this because this is a little bit of a forte, clearly. Give us a recommendation. Let's see if we agree to that right now. And
Well, it's like Ted said, economic development is how do you define it? We need to figure out how we want to define it. I think the first step is to really identify what our assets are and do that SWOT
Yeah, right.
analysis. And once we have a better idea of the data and and can ground ourselves in something, that might be a better starting point for defining our scope.
To me,
What do you think, Ted?
No,
You're
what I'm saying,
Defer to boss.
no, to me, you got it all at the top. You define your assets, and then you make smart goals from the assets we already have.
Yeah.
So that's a reachable
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the way I feel like we need to figure, and it goes back to my original statement, we need to know what we have.
is that right?
Steve, do you,
You asked me what I think.
Yes,
Here's what I
please.
think. I think you're witnessing a culture shift right now, tonight. You're witnessing a culture shift. Because you're getting away from what was in this book. Let me read you what was in this book.
Uh-oh, is this gonna be depressing? Yes.
Yeah,
okay, I
it will
think
be.
is.
It will explain to you why funding was held back and the LRA's falling down around you and some other things. This is what it says in the book. Contrary to popular perception, quality of life issues and school system issues are not near the top of the list for prospective businesses. No way. Is this correct? This is wrong. So I think a lot of your economic development effort in the past, well, you don't believe me?
No, no.
He's more visual than
No,
he
no.
is.
Yeah, he's more
he's trying to go who was on the
John
board.
kept saying y'all.
No, wait a minute. Look, that book was written when I got here.
My point is, the discussion that I've heard tonight says what is important is education, the school system, and quality of life issues.
Yeah, but that's the culture shift, you're right.
So it's a culture shift. So,
Please don't let nobody know that book exists. Just can that bastard.
Oh.
Burn any other copy of those that they're making.
And the education thing too, something we talked earlier about, quickly touching on, this is quality of life. I read in the newspaper that, excuse me if I'm wrong, but it was a basketball coach, I believe, whether he's paid or volunteer, doesn't matter. He said the gym over here is too small. But something we gotta think about is you've got all these surrounding counties, all over the south side of Virginia, that are coming to Nottoway for football events, basketball events, wrestling tournaments. You're bringing these parents in that might hear about a job at Piedmont or Nottoway Correctional or VCBR or over here, and they're like, well, damn, the gym is so small. So it goes back again to what you just read. The thinking when that was put together, whoever put it together was,
and as Mr. Rourke indicated earlier, there was a line in there, I read it, there's a line in there that said, we're not going to bring in retail because we don't want to compete
Yeah.
against our existing retail.
what existed in retail did they have?
Well, I tell you the example that was laid to me when I first got here, and this was, of course, this was 2020. They said, we don't want a mall jewelry store coming parking beside the jewelry store in Watkins. So that was one of the things, but the bigger line that we took in said, we're not to seek economic development. And
What's,
that the council took that out. We took that out because that was just horrible.
It was we'll just wait here and see what comes
That's right.
along.
That's right.
what's wrong with reaching out to them? And if, we'll just use the name Brand Hillsburg, says they want to relocate to Nottoway. They want to put a store in Nottoway.
Yeah.
Well, you've got Watkins down there in Blackstone. You obviously don't want competition for them. You market them to Crew of Burkeville.
That's right.
Or, you know what I mean? I say Crew of Burkeville, but the county.
Yeah, you preach.
Somewhere outside of Blackstone. Hey, we love that you want to come here. We want to help you. We'll give you tax breaks. We'll give you whatever we can to lure you here. But we want you 10 miles from Watkins. We don't want to shut down our mom and pop place.
Used to be another jewelry store in Blackstone. At the
Yeah, right
mall.
beside the
In
Walmart.
Yeah.
In the mall there.
All right, we gonna, let's run. So next step, so, we need to set a time and date. And then we need to elect a chairman. We ain't gotta do that tonight, but I do feel like the chairman of the board should not be the chairman of the Economic Development Committee. So we need some kind of bylaw.
You should be the secretary.
Could I run?
Hell, who invited him?
All right, so,
Nominate Pete Bowles as the secretary.
He's not a voting member.
all right, so what I captured, going back to the beginning of the conversation, and Andrea will set me straight tomorrow morning, was, 5 members of the board and 3 town appointees. And I heard Mayor Green say he would want to be that position. I heard, Mayor Phil over here, Ms. Vick said, let the towns determine. Okay, well, that could be across the board. And Brian, I don't think I ever got a real, me or town council member.
Everybody shut me down. I'm just down over here at the end of the table. I'm by my friends Helen and Sherman. They don't tell me that volunteers aren't worth nothing. That's me.
All right,
So that'll be.
there was also, there was a discussion about alternates. So, and then for staff, I caught Zodi, myself, I could have sworn, I definitely heard somebody say Van Orbeck, so I wrote him down. Jay, and, hey, you want to volunteer to be on the staff? And,
And Katie, should be Katie.
you want to throw Katie in there?
Yeah, Katie should be there.
What do you need as far as staff?
Well, I think it's somebody maybe do this intermediate
John
research
needs to be there.
that implementing the next steps,
Well, what about Andrew? I mean, is she considered staff as well? Is she documented the minutes?
Well,
I hope it ain't gonna be the secretary.
Okay.
John used to be there.
We can have Andrea come in and for.
That's what I
for-
said.
And I don't think it'd be tough to work on any of them, but we need to make sure we're treating them fair as far as their extra hours in here.
Well, you don't want that.
We're working that.
You don't want
Okay,
that.
we're good.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me one way or the other.
I'm on my
Well,
volunteer
me
hours.
neither,
right
that's why I
All right,
No, and I don't mean to volunteer
Yeah.
for the job here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just, she's great, anything she touches.
I'll give you my 2 cents. I mean, whatever you guys need to help get this moving forward, I'll be happy to put my name on the list.
All right, so,
I swear when I joined the army, I stopped volunteering, but I don't stop.
what do you think is the next step? Should we reach
So
out?
I guess we need to set a date. Do we, the previous committee met the 4th Thursdays of the month.
our second Thursday of the month is, I'm trying to make work sessions, third Thursday is the meeting. So fourth always has worked good for me, so beach time, that's about it.
I'm good with that, DJ.
You guys, Blackstone,
Yeah, we do.
you good?
Time,
Class on
6,
Zoom
7,
again
well,
next month.
Helen, you need 6:30 at least.
I need 6:30.
At least. Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
On
I'd
Thursday.
rather do a 6:30 than 7, so
6:30.
we can get it a little earlier. I mean, not so late.
Or so we can spend a little bit more time on it.
Yeah, it's been extra, it's been extra 30 minutes.
So far, we've been having record-breaking meetings. Lynn's got the Chiefs of Champions. She's 7 o'clock to 12 o'clock at night. Good job. I hope I never break that record.
The March 23rd, we're looking
You came close, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing at you, Chair.
I
could just have Steve.
And so then I guess next
This
meeting,
one.
we'll do the SWOT analysis and identifying assets. So just
Yeah. Now, do you want,
be thinking about some of the assets and strengths, weaknesses,
Right, right.
opportunities, and threats for economic development.
are you planning to facilitate, or should
6:30.
we try to reach in somebody else to facilitate?
It's entirely up to,
What do y'all wanna do?
See,
I'm gonna rotate.
You want to go ahead and see if they can I mean, I don't see no harm, we're gonna get it sooner or later.
Yeah, but the facilitator, who's gonna be right on the board, why don't we rotate it?
Oh, yeah.
Phil.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So-
Well, I
Can we
I-
get, can we get Mr. Zoder to recheck the sound and now
Okay,
from
yeah.
so what that.
Phil,
Yeah, let's just.
what do you think about rotating them? Who's up there right? It's not you stuck up there every time.
it doesn't matter.
Right. Next month, okay, get with Greg, maybe, getting any property that Burkeville owns, same thing for you.
I shifted in reverse, I'm not helping out with anything.
Oh, he ain't leaving that shit, oh, man.
Well, if we could get some descriptors or like, okay, you own parcel A, doesn't have water, doesn't have sewer, doesn't have electricity, what, yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, is it zone commercial? Because I think a good point on the zoning is we want to make sure it's already zoned for some kind of development, commercial development, economic development, because if it's a piece of property that's got to go through the process and the neighbors don't like it.
His own, like residential or agriculture, is maybe something we shouldn't be holding on to anyway, just
So
when it's
just concentrate on already commercially zoned.
No, I like to see everything that.
We'll see everything. Okay, all right.
So did the chairmanship rotated in the whole economic development committee? It rotated every year with someone.
Among
No one could be entrenched in that position.
among the 8 or among the 4?
Among the 8.
Among the 8, okay.
One thing we wanna look at is, so if you want me to look at it, if it's owned by Nottoway County and just exclude all school and property and things like
Right,
that.
just not, so we ain't gotta worry about going through a surplus or anything like that, just our assets that we actually got right now. Regardless of how it's zoned, but let's how it's
Just
zoned.
land,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so you're looking for just land because like you don't want to see the convenience centers.
That's right, we don't like that.
And for the towns, I would also suggest any privately owned places that are still economic development assets, for example, I can't think of an example right now, but, so if the Crew Community Center were still owned by the Stinsons, that would still be an asset for potential economic development or community development.
I've got the prime example for you, Phil, the land across the animal shelter, I don't know if you've been up to it, but it's all owned by Jack Boswell across the road.
right.
That's prime.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
For me, it's dead center in my town.
Even though the county don't own it, that's prime.
Yeah.
Fine.
And, okay,
That little corner at 460 in Dutchtown.
all right.
Phil, I understand, Phil, you're gonna be like the facilitator?
Sure, I can do that.
Joey, do your recorder, I mean, record it if you do clip shit.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, I'll be offered a class on ciphering ZDs.
So the homework is, we'll start looking at that, and then, I think another homework would be, like we just said, I'd like to hear some of what the town has to say about, what is your biggest asset right now? I would like to hear that. Just as, and I say this again too, I'm hoping that on the agenda, we'll always have one little session we can call, anybody got a stupid idea?
We call it Steve.
Yeah, Steve's stupid idea. But because I've seen some of the greatest ideas come up with some of the stupidest ideas, so, be thinking about stuff like that too. Good meeting, thank y'all.
I got one more question for y'all.
Mhm.
When the minutes are done, is there any way to get them sent so I can share them with my council?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. That what
But
we're
you
gonna
need
do
it
is-
pretty quick because you need it for the first meeting, don't you?
I just had a meeting a couple days ago.
Right. I thought it was.
So you just want to be able to share something?
Yeah, because
Oh, yeah.
my council is, they're like, well, we know that you know stuff that's going on, but you're not sharing with them.
I got you.
Some of the stuff you need to know, you guys really don't need to know every single meeting I go to, but
We'll use the standard thing if you wish. We'll send them out and understood that they're drafts and then when the group comes back together.
that's right.
And see, we can actually do it to all y'all. I mean, just send it out to all the council, elected council members in all
We'll
three
just put it
towns.
in the council package.
Yeah, just-
information.
So in my brain, I feel like I justified two good positions. We hired Buddy to put out a fire, and we hired Zoe to start an amplifier.
Yeah.
All right, okay, we good.
We're adjourned.
We're adjourned.